Hi, I'm Old Norse Specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. Today, on my channel about Norse language and myth, I'm going to be continuing my series of Old Norse lessons with a look at some questions in pronouns, possessive pronominal adjectives, and adjectives that are all kind of interlinked. So the first one of these interlinked subjects I want to look at is the reflexive personal pronoun. This comes in only an accusative, genitive, and dative form, just based on its inherent grammar. And those forms are sic, sin, ser. You may notice that's exactly parallel to first person mick, minn, mer for me, and thik, þinn, þær for singular one you. Now, what is sic, sin, ser used for? It's used to show that the object, which is always third person, is the same as the subject. It means essentially himself, herself, itself, or themselves. So this helps Old Norse and the later Scandinavian languages, which have descendant forms from this, distinguish in places where you can have some ambiguity in English. So for example, in English, if I say, she slapped her mom, you don't necessarily know, unless something's been established from earlier in our conversation, if the person who was slapped was the mother of the woman doing the slapping or was somebody else's mom, right? Is it Claire slapped her own, Claire's mom, or Claire slapped her, somebody else's, Katie's mom, right? Now, Old Norse makes this much clearer and less ambiguous, because in Old Norse, you would use hennar, mother, if she's slapping somebody else's mom, but sin, the personal possessive pronoun from sin, mom, for her own mom. Notice that sic, sin, ser, even though it mimics the form of singular mick, minn, mer, can actually be singular or plural. It can mean himself, herself, itself, or multiple themselves. So it's not based on number. So you'll see those quite a bit, and probably more often than not, the form of this that you're going to see is the possessive pronominal adjective formed from it. And this will work exactly identical to the possessive pronominal adjectives for mine and your, as in one person your. And we haven't looked at these formally yet, so let's do that. Essentially, these are just adjectives, but there's some particular things about their forms that we need to note. Let's take my, for example. The forms of this adjective go minn, minn, means, minum, minir, mina, minna, minum, min, mina, minnar, minni, minar, minar, minna, minum, mit, means, minu, min, minna, minum. Now, what are some special notes here? One is to remember that the nominative and accusative masculine singular are the same. They're both min, whereas you might expect, based on other adjectives with R assimilation, this would be something like min, minan, but instead it's min, min. Another thing to note is that the vowel is long if it's followed by just one single consonant before the next syllable, if applicable. So for example, you have long, mean, mina. Also if it's NS, so means, and then minum, minir, minar, those are all long, but then short, min, two N's, mit, two T's, minna, two N's, minar, minni, two N's. So it will be long before just one consonant or before NS, short before doubled consonants, doubled N or double T. That neuter nominative accusative singular form with the double T is also somewhat unique to these forms. So you're going to get mit, thit, sit. And so your own, well, or your own, or his own, her own, its own, their own, also work the same way. Þinn, þín, þitt, sinn, sín, sitt. Just to make sure that you've got that, let's see if you can do all the forms for his, her, its own, sin. Pause the video and see if you can do that. All right, you ought to have gotten sin, sin, sins, sinum, sinir, sina, sinna, sinum, sin, sina, sinnar, sinni, sinar, sinar, sinna, sinum, sit, sit, sint, sinu, sin, sin, sinna, sinum. And again, this will be where you're most likely to see that reflexive pronoun, or this derivative adjective from it, because it's going to help you distinguish between, right, she slapped her own mom and she slapped somebody else's mom. All right. For another adjective question that's kind of related to these, I am going to give you a quick break with a word from my sponsor here, and then we'll come right back. All right, now there are two really common adjectives that have pretty similar forms, or forms that will remind you a little bit of the forms of these possessive pronominal adjectives, and those are mikill, big, and lítill, little. All right, so the forms of these, let me give you mikill first, big. We got mikill, and then accusative singular, mikin, right? Not what you'd expect, which would be something like miklon, right? This is probably influenced somehow by the form of minn. So mikill, mikin, mikils, miklum, miklir, mikla, mikilla, miklum, mikill with one L, mikla, mikillar, mikilli, miklar, miklar, mikilla, miklum, and then neuter mikit, mikit, whereas you'd expect probably something like mikilt, right? But mikit, kind of similar to the minn, þinn, sinn forms, or to past participles, which we have yet to look at formally in one of these lessons. So mit, mikit, mikit, mikils, miklu, mikil, mikil, mikilla, miklum. And then lítill, little, has one extra little complication. This goes lítill, lítin, just like mikill. It's got that accusative where you place the double L's, double N's. I'm trying to find this bird. Lítils, litlum, litlir, litla, litilla, litlum, lítill, litla, litillar, litilli, litlar, litlar, litilla, litlum, litit, litit, litils, litlu, litil, litil, litilla, litlum. And there you can see that this has a rule of shortening and lengthening, something like the forms of minn, sin, thin, where that long I is going to disappear when you reduce it to a two-syllable word with the endings, right? Because we've got that, when you have a three-syllable word, you're going to drop the second one. So in something like litlar, where this turns into a three-syllable, this would turn into a three-syllable word, we're dropping the second one, and now we have that root vowel I in front of a TL. The I is going to be shortened. So litlar rather than litlar. All right, so that's probably enough for one lesson, and I hope that that's all sufficiently related to be reasonably processable in the time between lessons. As usual, I'm going to give you some slides with some readings to practice these forms, and for now, from beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best.